A new report out this morning from a key group of the world's 38 most wealthy nations sharply downgraded its current year growth forecast for the United States, going from a forecast for 2025 of 2.2% growth projected to now just 1.6% growth in March. The group adding further dismal projections for the future, and they expect the global economy to slow markedly both this year and next. A big part of what decides that, the currently stalled trade talks between the United States and China. Those negotiations are a huge focus as well for one industry in particular, footwear, calling tariffs an existential crisis and trying to hold on to hope from recent comments made by President Trump like this.
We're not looking to make sneakers and T-shirts. We want to make military equipment. We want to make big things. We want to do the AI thing with the computers and the many elements. But the textile, I'm not looking to make T-shirts, to be honest. I'm not looking to make socks. We can do that very well at other locations.
Joining me right now is Matt Priest. He's the president and CEO of the Footwear Distributors and Retailers of America, a leading footwear trade group that represents dozens of companies like Nike and Crocs. Thanks for being here. We've kind of been checking in with you throughout, from before all the tariffs were imposed to all throughout this very long and not yet there journey. You sent a letter to the administration about those remarks, applauding hearing that the president isn't interested in maybe pushing you to try to manufacture, companies to manufacture in the United States right now, and asking for an exemption for the footwear industry from the reciprocal tariffs. Have you heard anything back?
We've not heard anything back, Kate, but this started a process back in January where we asked the president to exempt us. We've been concerned about these tariffs. We pay billions of dollars in tariffs anyway, right? We have for 100 years. So for us, we wanted to encourage the president as he made that statement that yes, the policy should actually line up with the rhetoric. Stop tariffing and taxing Americans on shoes and socks and T-shirts, as the president said, and focus more on those strategic industries.
Look, I mean, the fact of the matter is tariff rates have not changed, right? They're still on. They're still hitting the industry and going to hit the industry. What happens if you do not get the exemption? What happens in the industry?
Costs will go up. This is an inevitable fact. In fact, we're here this week at a big market week in New York. We have this every 4 times a year. All the conversations, Kate, are around what are we going to do for costing for products sold in 2026? And no one knows. None of our brands or retailers know how they're going to be able to price goods in this environment when you're not sure what the tariff or the tax at the border is going to be. Is
the uncertainty worse, or is the tariff rate worse?
The uncertainty is typically worse. Now, when you're at 145, 154% tariff, which we saw just a few weeks ago, that's an embargo. So that's obviously terrible.
Yeah.
But if you're just not knowing where the tariff rate is going to land between 30%, 15%, 10%, then that uncertainty makes it very difficult to understand how to cost those goods.
Have prices gone up?
No, prices have not gone up right now. In fact, we're in this era where they're pretty muted. And that's our big concern, is because even with prices not up at this moment, because the tariffs haven't had a full impact on the cost of goods, our consumers have pulled back. And so we see declining sales. So our concern is that as prices go up, that's going to tamp down on consumer demand. And so what's going to happen when those prices do go up, particularly at back to school and holiday?
So that becomes a big question, right? Yeah. I mean, let's ask this in kind of like in 2 buckets. What this means for American business, American footwear companies, and what this means for the American consumer. If nothing changes, and that's the only thing you can work with when it comes to reciprocal tariffs, what is that going to mean for anyone who is out there shopping? In the letter you mentioned that I read that the average American spending on average $30 to $50 when they're in buying shoes. What is that going to mean for people when they're doing back to school shopping?
It's going to be higher costs, of course. And the bigger concern, Kate, is this is on everything. So even if we think that we are recession-proof as an industry, we know that because costs and tariffs have gone up on every single consumer good sold in this country, the discretionary income, right, the stretch of the dollar for the American consumer is going to start to shrink back, and so that's going to.
What's the estimate that you're hearing from companies, from Nike to Crocs to, I mean, you represent all the big names in the industry. If things don't change, what is it going to go up by? I mean, I just had the CEO of beauty cosmetics
Right.
on last week, and they are planning on raising their products, each product by $1 starting August 1. What are you hearing? How much are companies saying they fear they're going to have to raise prices by?
Yeah, so every company's different.
Yep.
They're all in a different part of our market. But in a general sense, we're looking 15 to 20% to cover. And so you multiply that across e.l.f. products, footwear, toys, et cetera, that's going to have a compounding effect on the consumer.
You mentioned that you'd also said that this is an existential crisis for American footwear companies. How many companies are you hearing from that this could put them out of business?
A lot. And what the viewers need to understand, Kate, is that even if you're buying product at a big box retailer that you see as publicly traded and you think they're worth billions of dollars, a lot of the suppliers and vendors that sell into those markets, that sell brands that people know and love, are small family-owned businesses.
Why can't the companies eat the tariff like Donald Trump says you should be able to?
Because the margins are 2, 3, 4% at best. And so we have one company, New York-based, third generation, $1 million worth of goods every single month. Their duty bill used to be $60,000. It's now $360,000 a month. That's mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. It puts into perspective what the impact could be.
Matt, it's good to have you here. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Please let us know what you hear back. I'm sure we will also hear it from Donald Trump's social media if you hear back from the administration on this. Thank you. President Trump's new ramped-up tariffs on steel imports are set to take effect tomorrow, and the president is vowing to double the tariff in an effort to revitalize U.S. manufacturing. The decision sent steel stocks sharply higher to start the week, but there's more. CNN's Matt Egan tracking this one for us. What did the steel industry saying about this?
Okay, the steel industry is loving it, right? Because the president is essentially tripling down on using his favorite weapon, tariffs, to revive the Rust Belt. So we did see steel stocks skyrocket yesterday. We saw a 10% gain for Nucor, 10% gain for Steel Dynamics. Cleveland-Cliffs, 23% increase yesterday alone. That was the biggest one-day increase for that stock in almost a decade. And just to remind you of where we are on steel tariffs, because it's a little confusing, the president did put a 25% tariff on steel in February, and then on Friday he vowed to double it to 50% starting tomorrow. And look, he's got a point here. The steel industry is certainly in decline, right? Production is down massively. Employment is down dramatically from where it was. This has really been very painful for a lot of communities. And look at U.S. Steel. It used to be the most valuable company on the planet. Now it's kind of a struggling afterthought in this modern economy. And analysts do say that 50% steel tariffs, if they stick, which is a big if, but if they did, that could encourage more steel production in the United States. But here's the problem. It's also expected to increase prices of steel. And the ironic part here is that there's more people who work at companies that use steel as an input than who actually work in the steel industry itself. Obviously, autos is the big example here, right? And we saw auto stocks fall yesterday because they use steel, and now their input costs are going to go higher. Former Obama economic official Larry Summers and Clinton Treasury Secretary, he's warning that these steel tariffs will backfire. Take a listen to what he said yesterday.
Net effect of this is going to be to destroy manufacturing jobs. The net effect of this is going to be to push up consumer prices, to make, for example, our automobile industry less competitive than it would otherwise be. This is ready, fire, aim kind of policy. It doesn't follow from any kind of coherent economic logic.
And given how volatile the tariff strategy has been, Summers also said he thinks it's extremely unlikely that this is really going to persuade companies to move production back to the United States. And we don't need to look back that far in history to see how this can go. Back in 2018, the president did put steel tariffs in place. And research does show that steel employment did go up, but only slightly, by 1,000. And look at this, manufacturing jobs at companies that use steel went down by 75,000. That's telling.
That's a graphic. That's something to pay attention to.
Right, and we don't know how it's going to work this time, Kate. But
we also don't know if they're going to stay in place. I mean, the uncertainty of it all.
Right, for more than a few hours. We don't really know. Right, but the history does show that this can be a risky strategy.
Risky, I would say so. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.